Welcome back to the deep dive. Sometimes, we come across writing that's just so out there, so different
That's
that
so
you
valid.
kind of got to just dig in,
Yeah.
unpack it layer by layer.
Definitely. Yeah, we're diving into an essay today.
That's what we're doing today.
That's a bit of a head scratcher, but in a good way.
It really is like a blend of ancient philosophy,
Right.
modern psychology,
Oh, yeah.
and a bit of, out there thinking.
Yeah, a little bit out there.
We're talking about the work of Joseph Aminian,
Yes.
who
That's right.
comes from a really interesting lineage
He does.
and has some pretty unique ideas
Yeah.
about how to navigate the world, how to be in the world.
Absolutely. So Aminian's family
Yeah.
comes from these founding families of Tabriz and Qazvin, places he talks about a lot in his writing.
Got it.
And he emphasizes this profound silence
Okay.
that's been passed down through generations of his family.
Profound silence. That's a really interesting
It is.
phrase. What does he mean by that?
Yeah. So it's not just about, externally being quiet.
Right.
It's like a deep internal silence
Hmm.
that's connected to, like, letting go of the ego.
Right.
Like, have you ever, experienced that feeling where
Yeah.
you get quiet and it helps shut out the noise of the world?
Totally, yeah. Like finding that peace within yourself
Exactly.
when chaos is all around.
Yes, exactly. And he connects this to his ancestry,
Okay.
suggesting that it's like a shield, like a
Touching.
cognitive and psychological, almost like immune system.
So it's like building resilience,
Yeah,
but not in the way that we normally think about it.
right.
Interesting.
He uses this phrase, ancient darkness and dark energies,
Okay, wow.
to describe this shield.
It sounds a little ominous,
Yeah, a little bit, I know.
like something out of a fantasy novel or something.
Yeah,
A little bit.
it's very evocative language.
Yeah.
But, keep in mind, he comes from a
Yeah.
long line of storytellers and philosophers. Right.
So maybe we shouldn't take it so literally, but try to understand the deeper meaning behind these descriptions.
So there's, a symbolic element here.
Yeah.
Like, he's using metaphor to convey something
Precisely.
that's hard to really put into words.
Yeah, and here's where it gets more interesting.
Okay.
He contrasts this ancient wisdom with modern technology.
Right.
He's saying, even with all of our advances, we still can't fully grasp
Right.
these deeper forces he's talking about.
So he's saying there's a limit to what science and technology can explain.
Yes, he believes there's this realm of knowledge
Interesting.
that goes beyond what we can just measure and analyze.
Okay.
He connects this to the idea of interoception.
Interoception. There's another word I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah.
Remind me what that is.
It's being aware of what's going on inside your body.
Uh-huh.
Those sensations, feelings, those gut instincts
Okay.
that you get. He calls it the sublime primal language of the soul's silence.
Wow. Okay. So it's like,
Tuning into those signals that are there,
Yeah.
but we just ignore all the time.
yeah, it makes you think, are we paying enough attention to what our bodies are trying to tell us?
It really does. Yeah.
Right. And this leads us to another concept that Aminian introduces.
Okay.
And this is the idea of Schmeckelhead personality disorder syndrome.
Okay, now that one got my attention.
Yeah.
Schmeckelhead. What's that all about?
He uses this term
Yeah.
with a dose of humor, I think, to describe people who
Okay.
exhibit these behaviors: manipulation, deception, constantly needing to be in control.
So, like, those folks who are always trying to pull the strings.
Exactly.
Got it.
And he talks about, he's had his own encounters
Yeah.
with people he considers to be Schmeckelheads.
Right.
These individuals try to, recruit him into groups,
Okay.
like the Freemasons and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
And he finds it deeply unsettling,
Interesting.
these attempts to manipulate him.
Yeah, it seems like he's drawing this parallel between this manipulative behavior and, like, the bigger picture.
Yes, you're picking up on something important there.
Okay.
He seems to connect these individual tendencies to the state of the world,
Well, yeah.
especially in light of
Right.
recent events.
He mentions October 7th, 2023 specifically,
Yes.
and how the world seems to be on the brink.
Yes.
Yeah, it's like he sees that Schmeckelhead mentality as like part of the problem.
He does. He makes that connection.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's thought-provoking, But
Yeah.
Aminian's essay isn't all doom and gloom.
Right.
He also has some interesting thoughts on wealth and responsibility,
Yes.
especially given his family's background.
Yeah, he comes from generational wealth,
He does.
but has a very different take on what that actually means.
He's definitely not your typical trust fund kid.
Right.
He believes that wealth should be distributed carefully, that true giving comes from a place of understanding, not pity.
Okay.
He's very critical of just, throwing money at a problem.
Yeah, it makes you think about, your own charitable giving.
It relates.
And, are you really addressing the root causes?
Right.
Or are you just trying to, like, make yourself feel better?
A good question.
Yeah.
And it's something Aminian pushes us to consider.
Right.
He says it's not just about the money, it's about the intention and the understanding behind it.
Okay.
And he believes that a lot of people who struggle financially do so because they've kind of internalized this slave mindset,
Interesting.
this belief that they're not worthy of abundance.
Okay.
And this is where Aminian's thoughts on mental clarity come in.
Yeah.
He stresses seeking professional help if you're struggling with these kinds of beliefs.
Yeah, he's very upfront about that.
He
Even suggesting what to say to your doctor.
Yeah, he's a big advocate for mental health care.
Okay.
And he emphasizes the need for qualified professionals to help you work through these challenges.
Okay.
It's not about relying on spiritual leaders or gurus.
Right, so it's about, like, taking a more proactive approach
Absolutely.
to your well-being.
And he ties this back to being present in the moment,
Okay.
listening to your inner voice, living with intention.
It's like he's giving us a roadmap
Yes.
for navigating the messiness of life.
Yeah, and that roadmap includes embracing something he calls the madness of the soul.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
Madness of the soul. That sounds...
It does. Yeah, what does that even mean?
What does it even mean?
This is where Aminian gets really introspective.
Okay.
He's talking about that intuitive part of ourselves that operates beyond logic and reason.
Okay.
That inner voice that sometimes feels a little wild and untamed. But he sees it as a source of wisdom and authenticity.
So, wait, are you saying, like, just let your impulses run wild?
No, not quite.
Okay.
It's about a deeper connection to our inner selves.
Right.
That part of us that often gets drowned out by the world.
Right.
All the noise. He's saying we need to learn how to listen to that voice.
Okay.
Trust our gut, even when it doesn't make sense to our rational minds.
That's a powerful idea.
It is.
But how do you even, like, start to do that?
Well, he offers some really specific advice.
Okay.
And it might surprise you.
Okay.
But I think we need to save that for part 2 of our deep dive.
Okay, now you've got me hooked.
Yeah.
Stay tuned, listeners, because we're going to get even deeper into Aminian's world in the next part.
So we left off talking about that madness of the soul.
Yeah.
How Aminian encourages us to listen to that inner voice.
Right, right. I'm really curious to hear, like, what advice he actually has for tapping into that.
Well, he uses this analogy
Okay.
of being alone at the North Pole.
Okay.
Sticking to your routines, even when no one's watching.
Okay, that's vivid.
Yeah.
But how does that relate to the madness of the soul?
It's about discipline and self-reliance.
Okay.
He's saying that even when you feel lost or uncertain, you need to have that inner strength to stick to your values. Do what you know is right, even when it's hard.
So it's like finding that internal compass, that sense of direction that comes from within.
Exactly.
Not from the
external validation.
Right. And this is where his writing comes in.
Okay.
He describes it as a form of self-therapy.
Okay.
Processing his experiences. Finding meaning in them.
So he's saying, like, putting these thoughts and feelings into words can actually be healing.
He uses language as a tool for exploration and self-discovery. And he's not afraid to use metaphors, dark humor, even a bit of provocation.
Yeah, it's not your typical, like, self-help book, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not.
It's a very unique blend of ancient wisdom and kind of a modern, like, almost cynical observation.
He doesn't shy away from challenging conventional thinking.
Right. Yeah, like when we talked about his views on wealth.
Like how true giving isn't just about money, it's about understanding and addressing the root causes.
He takes that even further, actually.
Okay.
By comparing excessive wealth to something radioactive.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Radioactive wealth, what's he getting at?
He's saying wealth can be this really powerful force.
Okay.
And like anything powerful, it can be dangerous.
Right.
If not handled responsibly.
Right.
He's seen how it can corrupt people, lead to manipulation, sense of entitlement.
Yeah. Makes you wonder, does having too much money actually make it harder to connect with that inner voice?
Exactly.
Because you're so focused on...
protecting what you have.
Yeah, protecting what you have, exactly.
That's a really interesting question.
Yeah.
It's one that Aminian grapples with throughout his writing.
Right.
He acknowledges that coming from a wealthy family has shaped his perspective.
Yeah.
But he's also very critical
Right.
of how wealth is often used in the world.
Yeah. And he really doesn't hold back on his critique of
He doesn't.
people who confuse wealth with power.
Yeah.
He seems especially wary of those who use it for
Yes.
like manipulation or control. Those things
Exactly.
aren't good.
Exactly. He sees that as a sign of insecurity.
Okay.
A lack of true inner strength.
Mm.
For him, real wealth is about responsibility.
Okay.
Using your resources wisely,
Right.
ethically,
Right.
to make a positive impact.
And recognizing the needs of others.
Yes.
But not in a
Not in like a
condescending or pitying way.
Exactly.
Right? He talks about intermediaries a lot, the importance of...
He stresses discretion.
Right.
Respect for those who are struggling.
Yeah, it's not about just throwing money
It's not a handout.
at the problem, right? It's about understanding
the complexities of poverty.
Right.
Working to empower people to break free from those cycles.
He talks about how so many people
Right.
who struggle financially have
Internalize that slave mindset.
internalized a slave mindset,
Yeah.
leading them to believe they're not worthy.
Yeah, they don't deserve it.
Yeah, it's a really
That's a powerful idea.
powerful idea,
Yeah.
and that brings us back to mental clarity.
It does.
Seeking professional help when we need it.
He's very adamant about that.
Yeah.
He doesn't sugarcoat it.
Yeah.
He says, if you're struggling, talk to a doctor.
Right.
He even provides, like, a script of what to say.
Yeah, he's very practical about it.
Very practical.
Which I appreciate. It's like he's saying, hey, this isn't something to be ashamed of.
Exactly.
Taking care of your mental health is just as important
That's essential.
as your physical health.
Exactly. And he says, this is not a matter of religion or mysticism.
Right.
These are issues that require medical and psychological expertise.
He draws a very clear distinction
He does.
between seeking help from qualified professionals
Yes.
and like relying on spiritual leaders or gurus or whatever.
He acknowledges the value of spiritual practice.
Right.
But he's also a realist.
Yeah.
He knows that sometimes we need more than meditation or prayer to deal with
the complexities
of the human mind.
Right. And I think it's refreshing that he's so open
It is.
about his own struggles.
He admits that he grapples with his own Schmeckelhead syndrome at times.
Right. It makes him more relatable.
It does.
He's not just like preaching from some ivory tower. Right. He's sharing his own journey.
Yes, his own ups and downs.
And it goes back to this idea that we all have that inner voice.
You do.
That madness of the soul.
Yeah.
And it's up to us to learn how to listen to it.
Even when it's messy.
Even when it's messy, confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, he seems to be suggesting that this madness is actually
a source of creativity.
A source of creativity.
Authenticity.
Yeah.
So it makes us unique.
So maybe it's not about silencing that voice, but learning how to work with it.
Yeah.
Finding a balance between
logic and intuition.
Logic and intuition.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, he's encouraging us to embrace
the full spectrum.
The full spectrum of
the human experience.
Of the human experience.
The light and the shadow.
Right.
The rationale and the irrational.
This is getting pretty deep, but I have to admit.
It is.
I'm really enjoying
me too.
This exploration of his ideas.
He's definitely a unique voice.
Yeah.
And whether you agree with him or not,
he
makes you ask some pretty big questions.
He does.
About yourself and the world.
Yes. Speaking of big questions.
Yeah.
I'm curious to hear how he ties this all back to those global events that he mentioned earlier.
Right.
Remember he talked about how the world's on the brink.
Yes.
And how he sees that Schmeckelhead mentality.
Playing out on a larger scale.
Yeah.
I think he has some insights there on how we can navigate these uncertain times.
Okay.
But we're going to have to save that for the last part.
You're killing me with the suspense.
I know.
All right, listeners, we'll be right back with the final part
Yes.
of our exploration into the world of Joseph Aminian. Stay with us.
Okay, so we're back.
We are.
Ready to wrap up our deep dive into the world of Joseph Aminian.
It's been a journey.
It really has. You know, this has been one of the more unusual essays
for sure
we've tackled, I think.
It's definitely unique.
It's so interesting how he's writing all this against this backdrop of some pretty intense global events.
Yeah, he keeps referencing October 7, 2023.
Yeah, October 7, 2023. And
yeah,
how that day changed everything.
Changed everything.
So he seems to see this connection between those events and that manipulative behavior that he describes.
The Schmeckelhead syndrome.
The Schmeckelhead syndrome, right?
Right. He seems to believe that mentality is contributing
to
the instability and the conflict.
Right. It's like he's saying this isn't just...
It's not just theoretical.
It's like abstract philosophy.
Exactly.
This is like real-world stuff.
That has real consequences.
Yeah. So what's his advice then?
Well...
How do we stay grounded when everything feels like it's spinning out of control?
Well, it goes back to what we've been talking about.
Okay.
This inner silence.
Right.
Connecting with that madness of the soul.
Right.
Seeking professional help when we need it.
Yeah, he really emphasizes
He does.
taking care of your mental health.
Mental health is crucial.
Right. It's not about...
It's not about pretending.
Pretending everything's fine.
Right.
It's about knowing when you need support.
And reaching out.
Reaching out. Exactly.
He's very clear about that.
He is, yeah.
And he ties it back to this idea of living with intention.
Okay.
Making conscious choices.
So it's about rather than just reacting to whatever.
Taking ownership of your experience.
Yes.
Even when there's chaos.
Exactly. And it's about cultivating that inner strength.
Right.
He talked about,
yeah,
the ability to stay true to your values.
Right.
Even when it's tough. Remember the North Pole analogy.
Yeah, you got to get up and do what needs to be done.
Exactly.
Even if no one's watching.
Even if no one's watching.
If finding that internal motivation.
Yes, that purpose.
That sense of purpose.
That comes from within.
Right. Yeah, it's like he's saying...
don't look outside yourself.
Don't look to external sources for validation.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Or direction.
Trust your own.
Trust your gut.
Trust your own intuition.
Yeah.
Right.
And trust the journey.
Trust the journey.
Even when it's messy. Even when it's confusing.
Yeah, it seems like he really...
He embraces
that madness of the soul.
Yeah. He said that's where the magic happens.
Yeah.
That space between logic.
Right.
And intuition.
And that's where the creativity...
That's where the real change comes from.
Yeah.
It's
It's definitely a different way of
looking at things.
Looking at the world, yeah. Not always.
Not always comfortable.
But
definitely
thought-provoking.
Thought-provoking. He's challenging us to question our assumptions.
Right.
Think for ourselves.
Yeah.
Embrace the unknown.
Embrace the unknown, yeah.
And to find that inner peace.
Find that inner peace.
That grounding.
That sense of grounding, yeah.
Even amidst the craziness.
Yeah, it's a reminder.
It is.
That we have so much more power than we realize.
We do.
To shape our own reality.
Not in some, magical way.
Not in a magical way.
But in a very practical.
In a practical, intentional way.
Intentional way.
So what's the big takeaway here?
I think Aminian would want us to ask ourselves.
Yeah.
Are we living consciously? Are we paying attention to those inner nudges?
To that madness of the soul.
That madness that might be trying to guide us.
Yeah, big questions, for sure.
Big questions.
This deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Me too.
And, that's what we love about doing this show.
It is.
We get to explore these fascinating ideas, these different perspectives.
And hopefully
you, our listeners, are right there with us.
That's right.
Diving deep into the unknown.
It's a journey of discovery.
It is.
And we're all on it together.
Until next time.
Keep
exploring.
Keep questioning.
Keep questioning.
Keep diving.
Keep diving deep.